It's a very great pleasure to have this panel now with Stac, Conni and John. We're going to hear from John first. John runs Manchester Hip Hop Archive and, well, I say runs, I know you have a quite somewhat egalitarian approach, but Unity Radio, and can I just invite you to talk about that now, John?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Pete, and thank you to Tom as well for inviting me here today. So, my name is John Green, and I'm the CEO of Northwest Media Limited, which is a parent company for Unity Radio and Manchester Hip Hop Archive. So, if I could give you a little bit of a brief background on my own journey into contemporary music, and then hopefully the joining of those two organisations will be a lot clearer. I started in music around 92, 93. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a skateboarding collective in Manchester that hung around in a basement boutique store where there were a lot of creatives, some very well-known DJs from Manchester, DJ Sefton, Madface, DJ Semtex. They were coming through very early days, purchasing, importing US vinyl and doing mixes, putting it onto cassette tapes and then selling these cassette tapes and sharing. I was involved in doing a little bit of production, and a Manchester music legend called Johnny J offered me a record deal at the time when he was working out Pete Water studio. It wasn't the direction of travel for me because I didn't really feel that I had the community that I wanted my music to be playing in properly represented. So at the time, my go-to was pirate radio, Manchester pirate radio stations, Soul Nation, Frontline, because they provided the music that wasn't currently available on the existing services and represented the community. And the thing is, at the time, is if you wanted to be involved in the music industry, there were gatekeepers, and they put conditions, and they took you to a studio, and there was a whole big network that you had to work through, which was basically do, what we say, this is how it will be released, and this is how we'll, put you across, and, you guys skateboard and rap, and so that seems to be, pretty cool, but not really understanding that just wouldn't have the authenticity, and that wouldn't really connect with the people that you're with. I came down to London and got into a community art college, which was in Roehampton, or University of Surrey, doing art in a community context.
How you doing? It's Wiz. I hope that you're well.
So basically, so as a graffiti artist, I was nocturnal. Obviously, I did something like aspiring to Gold City. I used to do the Southwest line, but through Barnes, Putney, and up to Battersea, graphing the train lines and stuff like that. And I found my way coming across into East London, and there were some young people who were DJing, and I got involved in pirate radio. So I'm delighted to be back in London, being able to share this history. We set up a pirate radio station, which was on 106.7, which was on Edgware Road, from a base radio station. And obviously, that then led to me working in East London on a pirate radio station called Magic 9.2, which is in Tower Hamlets. So my experience was seeing how groups of young people who weren't given the opportunity had actually come together with entrepreneurial spirit, and they'd created their own platforms, and it didn't really matter whether they were, being recognised because this whole ecology was nocturnal. And then from there, because of the issues that were happening in London, so 99, 2000, they banned UK Garage in central London because the violence. Trident got involved. We were involved in promoting parties out in Romford because it was just on the edge of London, so it was into Essex, so the police was different. There were parties where, you know, Friday night there were 2,000 people, £10 in each, that's 20 grand, not paying tax on that. But on top of that, you know, gangs then moving in to sell drugs. Soon escalated, so they'd go to the radio station, there'd be a pit bull, there'd be a revolver at the side of the decks, and there'd be security gates, and that wasn't what I got into. But what I actually saw from that is the way that these community platforms were actually providing income streams. So the radio family was a family unit where these young people coming together with a variety of different skills and abilities, and they were interdependently exchanging this skill set, transferal of knowledge amongst the generations to actually put food in the fridge. So if you'd ever been to Tower Hamlets in 2000, it was, you know, like Total Recall, empty tower blocks that could accommodate 80 or 90 flats, maybe 3 or 4 families living in them. So that was our playground, because we could go in there and we could bust open a flat and we could set up the pirate radio station. We weren't really creating any nuisance to the police. We were operating as, and we were trying to do it in ways where it was, you know, less risky. So I brought that back up to Manchester, moved back up to Manchester in 2000, 2001. I set up a radio station in Clifford Court, which was part of the Seven Sisters. Manchester geographically is very low build council estates, so you've only got a certain amount of high-rise blocks, and you need high-rise blocks to put your antennas on and to put your line of sight, high-frequency link boxes. So we use this technology, which they haven't used before in Manchester, and built up a very credible, regular transmission. Unfortunately, in 2001, co-founder who set it up with Robert, who was murdered, he was tragically stabbed to death. And as a group and a community, we responded to that by understanding all of our different hip-hop arts and music-based activities, and wanting to go into the community to kind of give some of the young people who were surrounded by some of this gang activity alternatives. So fast forward to 2004, we then worked with a Home Office initiative called YST, which was the youth support team, working with young people who were expecting to be remanded, providing these informal education sessions, which young people were really responding to around the DJ, breakdancing, street art, graffiti art. And then from there, we progressed to be given our own double-decker bus, and we were invested in by something called the PAYP, which at the time was a Labour initiative, positive activities for young people, which was being able to have funding to go out on the streets and to set up provision at times that responded directly to antisocial behaviour peaks. So, you know, youth centres shut at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We had funding to go out on a double-decker bus and play loud music in a park at 11 p.m. at night, and we were swamped. So that ended up going from a couple of sessions on a Friday and Saturday night to running 3 sessions per day, 7 days a week, across 32 wards, and we unknowingly were tracked and mapped by thematic principle at the GMP, which is the Greater Manchester Police, evidence cost benefit saving of £1.8 million, which the Home Office then provided directly to the Youth Justice team. So we basically shown that the activities that the young people wanted to do was having measurable, demonstrable impact on the local economy. Moving on forwards from that, we applied for a FM licence and we were knocked back. The first one we did was support Tony Wilson, who everyone will know. It was never going to happen because XFM went in for it. Robert Huff was the Lord Lieutenant. It was a handshake. We then went back in for this community licence in 2008. We were awarded it in 2010. We launched that station. We were unfortunate that austerity started to hit and we had to diversify and bring together a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and find new ways in which to become sustainable. So moving on from that, we managed to get a DAB licence in 2016 and then in 2017 we became the first black music radio station at Media City alongside the BBC and the ITV, where we've been there happily now for 5-6 years, developing our practice. In around 2015, 2016, unfortunately, a few people that we know from the community passed away. Some of them had alcohol drink problems, some of them just unfortunate ill health, and there were others who committed suicide. And with them had been the loss of a lot of knowledge and some of our local history as well. So we discussed and decided that whilst the first generation were alive, we needed to document and preserve this so that we had our own local heritage. And basically, we set up the Manchester Hip Hop Archive, which documents and celebrates 40 years of Manchester hip hop community, but also it celebrates the diversity and inclusivity of the community and the elements, and how young people have found their way to those to self-medicate, to build their own confidence and resilience. So that I just thought that I'd set the context to be able to help understand why a radio station is also delivering an archive. But the underlying benefits for this really were when we tried to approach more formal learning institutions, we were always quickly shut down using the language of hip-hop because there's stereotypes about that being aggressive young men who were connected to gangs. And some of that might be true, but some of it as well is a reason that existing curriculum then doesn't have to recognise that they're falling behind and they're not reflecting the real interests and tastes of the young people. And because schools are autonomous, we were finding it difficult to concurrently deliver into a community the same messages. And we wanted to be able to do schools education programmes. So with the support and funding from National Heritage Lottery and National Lottery Heritage Fund and through the Arts Council, we've been able to deliver a schools programme. And we've been able to constantly now reference back to Manchester's Hip Hop Archive, which is now located in the vaults at Manchester Central Reference Library, alongside the city's births and deaths registers, giving it that legitimacy and actually showing people who are sceptics within academic circles that this is a movement and a culture, and it's as significant as the Romans, it's as significant as Byzantium, it's here and it's continuing to grow. And there's so much rich learning that can come from it. How is a culture that have-nots, young, black and Hispanic, men and women in post-economic decline New York in the 70s created something that had the power to spread around the world by word of mouth through every different nationality, bridging languages, bridging all these cultures and communities, and becoming the biggest consumer music on the planet, which obviously now has people's interest because it's industry, global industry. So I'm very privileged and humble to be supported by pioneers in Manchester. I'm third generation, pay my respects to Prince Cool, to Sefton Madface, to Semtex, those that influenced and held up the culture and gave me the opportunity to be here today. So thank you very much.
That's fabulous. Thanks so much, John, and thanks for keeping to time there, because I do want to have time for some questions from the floor. Those on Zoom, please do drop questions into the chat and we can hopefully find time to answer them. We're going to show the video first, I think. So Conni and Stac are here from the Vocal Beats project, and this video tells you a bit about it, and we'll talk more about that afterwards. So with a bit of luck, this will play for people on Zoom as well.
I'm listening to the sound of my heart. Every ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom that I hear. The sound of my heartbeat is like music to my ear. A sweet rhythm played on repeat under my vest. A sound I pray will never stop. A sound I almost lost.
In 2022, Vocal Beats Academy hosted an evening of live music and spoken word at the Roundhouse.
All of the young people involved have received treatment for cancer or heart and lung disease.
10 weeks of creative planning, workshops and rehearsals culminated in a showcase that featured musical collaborations, film, spoken word, original compositions and fantastic performances from all of the participants.
It was an incredible night, a night we could just show off our talents.
A night to express ourselves and our creativity.
To show people that even during cancer, there can be moments of joy.
Joy through music, poetry and friendship.
Cancer doesn't define us, and we proved it that night in front of the mic. Never to forget the ones who were laid to rest, the lives whose music stopped. I think of you a lot. Being young, being dumb, having fun, being free, living life, having time is a must, it's a need. Don't take it for granted that you breathe easily. I realize I have time. I've been blessed with more time to make more memories, more time to age, to have birthdays, more time to make mistakes, more time to learn, more time to grow. That's what we all fight for, Just a little bit more time. Now I want to make my life count. To show that I was worth saving. I've never been one to follow the paving, and I won't be starting now. I want my life to matter and to make a difference somehow. To bring joy to others, my sisters, my brothers, to share love, to share music. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I'm listening to the sound of my heart. Sweet music to my ear.
Okay, so that was about Vocal Beats. Conni and Stac are here from Vocal Beats. Raphael Travis thought that was a powerful piece, and you couldn't get praise from a higher source. So to me, the two presentations may seem a little different, but I think that there is a common element there, which is about how to support people's well-being and give them, this is the wrong way of putting it, but support them in their creativity. Can I invite you first, I don't know who goes first, Connie and Stac, to tell us a bit about your own background.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Conni Rosewarne and I'm an arts manager for Royal Brompton and Harefield Hospitals, which is part of Guy's St Thomas's Trust. In the Heart and Lung Hospital based in West London, one site's in Chelsea and one site's out in Harefield, Hillingdon. And just to quickly say thank you to Pete and Karen for having us today and to John and your really inspiring work. So I've been in this for 6 years and my specialism is really in programming music activities for and with patients. No, what do you do? You're the musician.
Seamless. Hi, I'm Stac. It's short for Stacey. It's a nickname, but it's like my artist name, so I've kept it. I'm a singer, songwriter from London. I went to the Brit School, so I've had not such a classically trained upbringing, but that's kind of allowed me to sort of, like some of the things that people were saying when I was speaking earlier, I was like, I've totally taken that for granted. Like, it's just been very open in my musical education. And I've been working at RBNH Arts on vocal beats projects since 2016. Yes.
Thanks. And can you tell us then a bit about vocal beats? I think it has a patient-led approach and does include, for example, beatboxing, but also includes different kinds of music depending on the patient's interest, if I understood our conversation previously. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Vocal Beats works with children and young people from sometimes hours of being born right up to the age of 25, who are receiving treatment for both and/or heart and lung disease and also cancer as well. Basically, it started off with recruiting one musician in residence who was our friend Heather McClelland. She went on to the wards one afternoon a week at Royal Brompton and Harefield to do some singing, ukulele playing, because some people had told us that there was not enough opportunities for them to be creative whilst staying in hospital. They're abroad, they're obviously away from home, they're in extremely anxious and often distressing circumstances. So it was a way of testing out how music could work in that space, and it received really positive feedback. But it became clear that we were not reaching enough of our young people. We were not being diverse enough, and it just so happens that Heather's best friends with a group of champion beatboxers, including MC Zaney, who was a world champion, and Bellatrix, who was the first female UK champion, Rose Savage again, so we got them in, and it just went from strength to strength. They were demonstrating, performing beatboxing on the walls, performing beatboxing and singing together. Young people, we sort of gradually expanded what the offer was over the several years. We went into songwriting, beat making, trying all sorts of different genres. Saxophone musicians, we should be able to tell you about that. But yes, and we realised we had something really great, and in 2019 we were very fortunate, thanks to Youth Music, to form a partnership with the Royal Marsden, which is when we began working with young people with cancer as well. And I think throughout COVID, we sort of expanded what we were doing again, so short courses where young people could work as a group and really develop their skills. And that's when we really started seeing, like, oh, we've actually got incredibly talented young people here who it goes beyond just having a nice time, or not just making music. There are young people here who genuinely want to do this and have the talent to make this the beginning of the rest of their lives.
So that's where we wanted to introduce more of like a sort of stepping stone into the music industry. And we have amazingly, really fortuitously collaborated with the Roundhouse, which kind of happened at the same time as I wanted to create a sort of different arm to the project, which was, which ended up being Both Feet Academy, which we actually sort of performed that with Laban House. But yeah, we wanted to give our participants the opportunity to continue working with us, continue walking down the line of, moving into the music industry, working on whether it be like what the poem that you saw was written by Lauren Anglish, who we introduced her to Kate Tempest's work, and she just flew with it. Like, she absolutely understood Kate, and it's really helped her sort of work out her feelings about having cancer, but also like it says in the piece there, living with cancer, living beyond cancer, just enjoying your life as a creative person. And yeah, that's kind of really what we wanted to be able to do. And also create a place where it could be more peer-to-peer, because on boards it tends to be one-to-one sessions, other than the online kind of workshops that we created in the pandemic. I think, yeah, this group of people that we just saw on the screen had never met. They'd never met in their, in their treatment, and then they were given a bit of space to hang out together, and friendships, lifelong friendships formed, and we wanted that to be like the main focus. The video was created with the participants. The flyer was created by the participants. It was very participant-led. They chose what they wanted to play, what they wanted to do, and we just sort of facilitated.
Thank you. And can I drill a little bit further into the particular use of beatboxing that I know that has been part of Vocal Beats, because I think in the present context that is of interest. For example, some GCSE music specifications will allow, or have allowed, beatboxing. Not that hardly any teachers take them up on it, but yeah, I wondered how beatboxing figures in your work, if you could say anything about that, because I know that your attitude is, if it's medieval music they want to do, we'll do a madrigal. Yeah. But if it's beatboxing, so yeah, anything to say about that?
I think beatboxing has become such an interesting, I feel like the word tool kind of diminishes its value in what we do, but it's such a versatile skill and art form in and of itself. And it's interesting kind of the discussion around genre this morning, because I think people think of it as its own genre. Like, I remember someone once made some discussion on my technologies, that actually the way our beatboxers and musicians work is that it's inherently responsive, it's inherently improvised, and it fits into all kinds of types of music, to hip-hop, R&B, soul. But it's also, the video here, there was a young person who she wanted to have a go at playing drums, and she learned to play drums by a beatboxer teaching her how to make beats. And we also had, worked with this young teenage girl who she grew up in South India, and she taught the musicians how her music could be context, which was classical Indian music, and they created classical Indian beatboxing together. And it's really allowed all the musicians, I think, to just think really openly about, okay, speaking to young people, what do you like? How can we find a way to work with you on something that you like and is interesting to you and relevant to you?
Great, thanks, Connie. Anything to very quickly add, Stac, because I do want to have time for questions. Okay, well, thanks so much to Connie and Stac. We have just 5 minutes for questions. If you're on Zoom, by all means, drop one into the chat. But alternatively, does anyone want to ask a question here, please? Can I give you the microphone so those on Zoom will want to hear it, please?
Hi, thank you. That was really interesting. I was just wondering, from a kind of medical, clinical point of view, did you do any analysis of the impact of the work that you were having on how well those young people recovered from their illnesses? Was there any kind of impact assessment work undertaken?
When you say recovered,
I mean, in terms of like how they were responding to their treatment, maybe was there, as well as the kind of musical outputs, were there any specific health benefits? Did they get better faster than they might have been anticipated to? What's the kind of impact from the clinical point of view within hospitals? Can we get the buy-in of the medics? Because there's potentially money that can be saved in working in this way, in both prevention and cure.
Yeah. So that is our dream study to do, basically, is to get hard evidence that music making relieves symptoms of heart, lung disease and cancer. I think there's already a lot of really robust evidence out there, and it's kind of different in different contexts. I know generally that there is robust evidence that engagement in creative activities, including music making, for people facing ill health and health treatment saves the NHS money, and that might try to consider amount, and that is being seen in policy making at the moment. Not really enough, but it's getting there. There's also evidence that listening to music in hospital can reduce pain levels, and it can slow down heart rates, really alleviate anxiety, and we also, lung function is a big part in a lung hospital. So a lot of the work we've done is in partnership with some amazing physiotherapists, looking at both singing for lung health, which has quite a long history, but also beatboxing for lung health, and how we could potentially support teenagers living with cystic fibrosis, for example, with managing breathlessness. And we also do a lot of we do a lot of collaboration around confidence, loneliness, and
Thanks, Connie. Any other question? It will have to be very quick, please.
I guess it's kind of difficult. We talked about the 1.8 million in financial everything, and some of the it's possible to see money from the list right to do is document the financial impact. But just imagine how much, and how much you continue an ongoing process to document the financial impact and benefit across like the continuing work.
So it's quite difficult to continue that line of work when legislation changes, policy changes mean that local authorities shift things around. So I know I was warned not to put my political views across too much, but Labour really understood that, and we got access to like really sensitive data. So we had to go through a process where we were vetted by the police to be able to know about gang activity in certain areas, to be able to get hold of the police data as to what the actual costs were. We did an initiative in the Harefield Triangle, which was over 12 months, where we were located in an area that had no previous provision. And because of that, it was very easy to map and track, because there was no news centre there to compare it with, so we had the sample. And we were supported by Excalibur, that was the undercover police. So they knew that the kids were carrying guns, coming to our provision. But at the same time, they wanted those kids not to leave that area because of the hostilities after the shooting of one of their peers. So on the 12th-month anniversary, they were able to say, we've lowered gun crime by 70%. And then that obviously had all of the stats from the previous year of costs. So to answer your question, you need to be able to work with local authorities and access that data and information, and that's the biggest barrier to demonstrate the cost benefit.
We're really out of time, Simon, but if you can ask it in half a sentence, or could it wait until lunch?
It was more a comment, really, but it's about the sort of social return on investment. Do you think it's going to be the magic bullet that's going to open the door to all sorts of funding? We similarly have a 1.5 million social return on investment for the work we do across East Anglia. But you think it's going to be an open door then, but it just isn't. You're never saving money from the person you're talking to's budget. It's always the next person down the road. So just a word of caution. But if you want to get social return on investment done, we've just got 60 grand pro bono from a company a data health company in Cambridge. Come have a chat. I'll give you their details.
Brilliant, thanks Simon. And that's really a nice point to end on with people networking, which is what we almost do over lunch. But we now have to move on. Before we, in a moment, it will be DJ Task, Tony here, doing his keynote. We'll just get the people in from the other room. But could we give another round of applause to our speakers?